There we go. So I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sarah.
Yep.
And we're here with coffee with a double shot of the Heebee Jeebies.
Heebee Jeebies.
Spooky.
So we kind of bonded because we are authors.
We are.
And we have a media background.
Yep.
And we're like super interested in the paranormal.
We are a little bit obsessed. Just a little bit obsessed. That's it. And every house is haunted.
And every house is haunted.
Just put it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you hear the scratching, you hear the, like, you go into a dark room. Immediately, my thought goes to the hand. You know that old movie where it's like scrutty.
Yeah, that or something's underneath the bed and you want to pull your feet up. Like,
yeah, exactly. I'm a big tuck my bed. All bed sheets have to be tucked in. It's like, oh my God. So, yeah. It's bad. So then we started talking and we were like, we love talking about this.
We do.
So we're thinking you would love to talk about it with us. So make sure if you want to, you can subscribe to our channel. And even if you don't subscribe, like the video.
Yes,
and we love to hear your comments.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So today we are talking about a classic story.
We are, and it's going to be revived. So,
yes, yeah,
which
absolutely.
is a whole new thing.
Yep.
So we are going to be talking about The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
So originally the movie was produced in 1970s, and there was a book that was published in 1971, I believe. It was 1971.
Okay.
And then that was based off a true story.
Yeah, which was in the 1940s.
Yep.
Where this young kid supposedly was playing with the Ouija boards.
Yeah.
And the thing is, ignore my cat making me come into
we
the shot. We have a little visitor here. Yeah, a little visitor. So we gotta like go with it. Sometimes like the easiest explanation for a scratching sound
is the
animal is the cat. So just to let you know that.
Usually most things can be debunked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Your imagination has more fun with it.
Absolutely. So in the late 1940s, 1949, this young kid, apparently young boy, was having his aunt gave him, he was interested in the paranormal.
Yep.
And his aunt gave him a Ouija board.
Yeah, he asked for one. And so the family was like, here you go, summon up some demons.
And I'm like,
and that's what he did.
I know, any day. So, and the thing is I am not a Ouija board person at all. I won't even go near them. I don't go near the boxes in the store. I'm like,
you're like
going far away.
We had a Ouija board when we were little. We asked for one, and we got one because my mom was like, it's a toy.
Knock him down. Yeah.
It's a toy. It's in the toy section.
Just a toy to summon up demons.
Yeah. And it was a bad choice.
Yeah. And then the door handles started rattling.
We had a lot of weird stuff happen with the Ouija board. A lot of weird stuff. So I highly recommend avoiding them.
Yeah, don't do the Ouija.
Yeah, and listen to the story of the Exorcist and Roland Doe and his experience. And
because he started, the aunt gave him
the Ouija board.
And
just like the original. I don't know if you guys have watched the 1970s version of The Exorcist, but the author who wrote the book heard of Roland Doe when he was in college. He read the article in the newspaper that was written.
Happened,
and he wrote the book, and he wrote the book as closely as The Exorcist, as it was happening, or as it had happened. Except he changed some things. Obviously, he changed the gender of the main character to a girl who's 12 instead of 14. And instead of being surrounded by a large family, it was a single mother. And then some of the like scary moments, so the crawling the wall and the head spinning and stuff like that was more fictionalized that they believe, like no one's confirmed or denied. But he kept those lines of events, like the Ouija board coming into the house, the scratching, those hidden noises of the possession getting scarier and scarier.
And then there was writing.
There was writing, So but the writing was different. So in the real Exorcist, it said Lewis, and that brought them to Lewis University on Roland, and that's where they had, because he Roland had multiple exorcisms done over a span of time.
By Jesuit priests, right? So you have to remember the Catholic Church and actually other churches as well. I don't know about other religions, but I know within the Christian religion, there are still exorcists out there. And within the Catholic Church, what I have come to understand relatively recently is it is a growing program.
It's a huge growing program.
And it's not a diminishing program.
No, I think in 2018, the Vatican accepted 250 new priests into their exorcism program.
Wow.
And so imagine being a fly on the wall in that room and what you would see.
Gosh.
That reminds me of, there was a movie with Anthony Hopkins, which was based off of a priest who did exorcisms. And that, I believe he is now back in the United States, that priest that the movie's based off of.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, there's definitely a culture around exorcism.
Yes. And we'll cover that in a future episode.
We will definitely. But I do know the mindset of exorcisms have changed too, because there's been a lot of unfortunate deaths because of it, because of mental health issues, and also people who've been afraid and they believe that they can do exorcism on their own. They go to that extreme. So the Catholic Church has changed their fundamentals and how they look at it. They have a list that I looked up that talked about there's 5 signs of possession. One of them is future telling. So if you can predict.
Predict the future.
Yep. And then the other one is if you've ever played with the occult, so Ouija boards was one of them. Magicians, psychics, any of that. But and there's more.
There's opening the door. And there's some not musicians, but magicians. And I went and saw a super famous one years ago. He will remain unnamed, right? And I've seen a fair amount of magicians through the years, but I know it's supposed to be sleight of hand. I know it's supposed to be.
But you question,
right? Yeah, there was one thing he did towards the end of the show where I was like, this is not sleight of hand. This is literally somebody doing something in the weird realm, the spiritual realm. Something. I mean, it just made me feel so uncomfortable. I was like, and everybody in the audience was like, "What just happened?"
You're like, no,
thank you. Yeah.
Unless it's a really good prank and he's going back going,
exactly.
But it's something simple and you're like,
it could have been, but it felt really weird and it felt totally different from all the other tricks he did, right? You know, the sawing people in half, all that. But this was something that actually included the audience. It was a dark audience hall. It was it was so freaky weird. I was like, I think I'm done with magicians now. I literally have not seen a magician since.
And that's one of the things with the Catholic Church. They do ask, that could open the door to a possession. Which was weird to me. I'm like, obviously I'm thinking street magicians. And I'm thinking birthday parties. But then
clowns are
scary. Scary. I do not.
No clowns on this watch.
No, thank you.
No. So but coming back to the exorcism of this boy, right? There seemed to be at least 5 or 6 priests who tried to do the exorcist, right?
Yeah, and it was multiple locations. So in the original film, it all took place in the house, and they only brought in one priest, and the priest had a apprentice.
Okay.
So of course they fictionalized it, and they made it one location. Film is easier, book is easier, all of that. But over the course of the real exorcism that it's based off of, it was multiple locations, different hospitals, different churches, and then his house, it sounded like too. So it was, and then I think one of the priests was assaulted, so he broke his nose during one of the exorcisms.
Okay.
But that was as far as the violence went. So
because I remember when the movie came out, I was just a little teensy-weensy. I probably shouldn't even have met her. I was alive during that time. But I remember it was a really big deal because they did hand out barf bags to people going in. And it did actually make people sick. Well, so did Night of the Living Dead.
Which would make sense.
That made people sick as well. And that was a little bit earlier, right? Because during the late 60s and 70s, there was a huge spat or a grouping, I should say, of horror films that came out that were cutting edge, realistic. And the big thing with The Exorcist was that spinning head thing, and I still have never seen the film.
Oh, it's an amazing film. It's absolutely amazing, but it is definitely like one that will stick with you.
Yeah.
Even though, because I watched it probably 10 years ago, but at that time technology had changed, and
so it looks a little.
You can tell but it's still, the story. Is so unnerving. Yeah. Because it's a young child that's possessed, and the parent, the mother, is trying to protect her, but has no control.
Yeah,
and so as a parent
it plays
now,
into that whole human experience as well, which horror movies do, right?
It's all about her.
Absolutely, it's cathartic on one side, but on the other side, it's such a human experience trying to protect from the unknown.
Well, and what do you do?
Like, what do you do? What do you? I mean, if this stuff is actually happening, what do you actually do?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, you call the priest.
You call the priest.
You hope they don't go running out the door.
Exactly. And some priests are not prayed up enough.
No.
Right? They are not at the level that they're whatever they're coming up against is stronger than that, right? So you have to be like really careful. So
I wouldn't want to mess with that. I would be like,
oh my gosh. So, but what's interesting is I have to put my glasses on for this, but in 1993, a book was written called "Possessed: The True Story of an Exorcism" by Thomas B. Allen, and he said that today's experts from 1993 think that the exorcism boy was just a mentally ill boy.
Which who knows?
Yeah, and that's the question, right?
Because like if you look at the exorcism of Emily Rose, I mean that turned into a trial case where they were trying to figure out if she would have gotten the right mental health, if she would have lived. Yeah. And then you had the case, I think, of Annalise was another one. She was starved to death.
Yeah.
And but the priests backed them up. They're like, this is and then they have footage of them speaking different languages and different voices. So you really question, like, where is that healthy boundary of being like, okay, this is a mental health issue and this is a spiritual issue, and how do you solve it?
How do you deal with that? Because some of the languages are just gibberish, but some of the languages, there is some evidence, not a lot. You can't hardly find it anymore, but there was evidence that some of them were ancient languages.
Which is petrifying.
Which is really scary. So what do you do in a situation like that?
Well, especially if you're coming into a Catholic family and your beliefs are that strong. Yeah. And you automatically go to the spiritual realm. And then someone is saying that there's a mental health issue. Yeah. Where that would be tough.
That would be. And I think nowadays they seem to try and balance it out a little bit more, because there are obviously mental health issues that cause these types of behaviors.
And more recognized versus back in the 40s.
Absolutely.
Back in the 40s, there was a lot of like...
Oh, yeah. Anything that was... I mean, even epilepsy, right? Was sometimes considered possession.
Yeah, because they had no idea.
They had no idea. And it was pretty extreme. And there were stories from like as way back in the 1700s, 1600s, especially with women, that if they were a little maybe not subservient enough to their husband,
or they spoke out a little bit more, or they were a little bit more knowledgeable than what they should have been.
They were considered possessed.
Or a changeling.
They
had a whole bunch of things to kind of...
So we're hitting on a lot of stuff, so just make sure you continue to tune in.
Exactly. We have a broad range of spooky dooky stuff.
Yeah, so, but I thought it was interesting that even just 20 years after, the first book was written, there's books, or a book at least, put out saying, that we're thinking this might be mental illness. We can't prove any of these things.
And there was no real documentation, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and see, there's the catch-22. And I think even if there is documentation, people are always going to try and debunk it.
Which is nature, because we want to. Like I've always told you, I'm like, I really, anything that's on the internet, it's very hard to believe unless we film it, And we
we're
get
there, and we
know what was touched and not.
Exactly.
It's really, especially nowadays.
Oh,
like you watch anything, you're like, and people are just getting better and better and better.
They're so good at it now.
And you're sitting there going, okay, this cannot be real. This can't be. I really hope it's not real.
Yeah, and then that's, I think, part of it too. You kind of go, ooh, this is really interesting, but then you're like, I really hope this is not real.
Yeah.
Right? But there's some things that are just a little too creepy that makes you go, is that a trick of the camera? Yeah. Is that a trick of the light? Why is that shadow moving in that way? Where's the light source? Where's this? Mm-hmm. Where's that?
You start questioning.
And you start to question, and then you can't quite debunk it.
And sometimes it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Sometimes you watch something and you're like, yep, mm-hmm. that is definitely something there.
Yeah, something is there.
That gut feeling is like, and that's like walking in the house where you're like, something's off.
Yeah. And
like,
you feel that.
Yeah.
You just know it.
Yeah.
And you usually leave pretty quickly.
Like the Ouija board.
Like the Ouija board. Yeah. It's like, we're not going upstairs. No, we're just staying right here. Yeah. And the Ouija board, I'm like, we give those wide berth. Like, and I remember when, going to, brownie camp or Girl Scout camp, because you have to remember, I'm a Gen X person. People do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember one particular time at I think it was Girl Scouts, and it was like the middle of the night, and all the girls wanted to do the light as a feather. They wanted to do the Ouija board, and I was like, no. And I wasn't that old, but they were really mad at me because I wouldn't do it. They're like, you go over the other side of the room and we'll try it. And I seem to remember that there was levitation, right? But that's my memory, but I didn't have anything to do with it. I just stayed on the other side of the room. We're not doing this. And there was the Bloody Mary thing.
I remember doing that. Like, we did it all. Yeah. We did it all. I'm lucky I'm not possessed in that room.
Exactly. It's like,
I'm like, okay, we've done it all. But the interesting fact about the Ouija board is the Ouija board actually came when the seances were happening in the Victorian era, which was huge. And so, but the way that they would communicate is they would knock. And so they would say the talk, and that's how they would communicate. Knock, and it would take forever. So obviously they wanted to be quick.
We want to, we just want to move things around a little quickly.
So the psychic did a Ouija board, and these, they were surveyors. There was 2 surveyors who found this Ouija board thing.
This is going,
and they said, that's a business. And so they could patent it. The patent office had to prove that it worked to give them a patent. And so,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the patent officer took the Ouija board and somehow it proved that it worked, and that's how they gave them the patent.
Wow.
And then also, they didn't know what to name it. So they talked to a psychic, and the psychic touched the board, and I guess told him the board wants to be named a Ouija board.
Wow!
And so that's how they got the name a Ouija board. So there is definitely history.
That's a weird history. I didn't know about that. That's kind of crazy.
But 2 surveyors were like, this is a good, and they made millions because they wanted their families.
Okay, so next time we're going to find this out for you. I wonder if the family still own patents.
Oh, that would be interesting. Because I know it's brother. Hasbro,
Oh, maybe they bought the patent.
Yeah, because they're
so we won't talk about that another time. But so they must have sold the patent at some point. Probably made a lot of money on it.
They made a huge amount because it was right in that turn of that spiritual
era. Spiritualist, where they were starting, and there's a lot to that era too. But this boy, he expressed interest in the paranormal. Mm-hmm. His aunt was connected with that world in some way. She was like a medium or something.
No, I think they were raised Lutheran.
But she was something, let me just look real quick, because it seemed like she was like an outlier in the family.
Yeah, because he asked her, and her name was Harriet. And she was the one that gave it to him, and then she passed away. And that's what happened. Okay, so so she passed away, and then the family tried to contact her through the Ouija board.
Oh,
and that is when they
right.
had the scratching on the walls.
Okay.
And they tried to contact the dead because she had passed away.
It was the aunt, yeah, who got him all a Twitter with it.
And so then they brought in the priest, and they had a couple different things where they put the crucifix underneath his pillow, and the bed started shaking, and then it flipped over according to family members, and the crucifix moved to the edge of the bed. And then then he had the writing. Roland had the writing of Lewis on it, so they went to University of Lewis, and they met a couple different priests, and those priests were the ones that were actually able to do the exorcism, the final exorcism that worked.
Yeah, there was one final exorcism that worked.
And someone got their nose broke.
Yes.
So it's all upsetting.
And the thing is with the Vatican, they have, obviously they've been around for a couple thousand years. Their archives are extensive, and they're not going to open up.
No, not at all.
Right?
No, they're like, there's some shady
stuff.
Dark stuff in there that they're holding on to.
They had like assassins going across the English Channel to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I, not the second, the first. And they actually had priest assassins at one point. So the idea that just because there's no proof that anybody can find with this case, not to say anything negative about this author who wrote it, because this particular book debunking it, if you can't find it, you have to sort of assume I can't prove it. But if you can't get to the documents, right? If you're dealing with an agency, even the government agencies, right, where they won't allow you to see the documents, and the Vatican doesn't have to release anything to anybody.
And it's not like the Vatican are taking priests and saying, all right, come to a 4-hour workshop and now you can do it. This is like 4-year degree. And a lot of time these people, these priests already have like a psychology degree. They're very educated.
Highly educated.
And then they come in and do, and this is like a doctorate in their specialty. So they are so well trained. And their documentation and the way it's very formulaic. And the prayers, the things that they do, and to be a fly in the wall, I would love to
that would be
I would not want to be part of an exorcism, but I would love to do that class. So the Vatican, if you would like to invite us in,
we would like to
get
Italy's cool.
We would love to know. But it would be, so it's not people going out there without the education.
No.
And that's the crazy part. And there's rules. And to have an exorcism done, it's not like you make a phone call, they show up the next day. This is like 3 months of them investigating to make sure there's no mental health issues nowadays.
And they're very careful. They have to be very careful. Because obviously mental illness is going to be a very different route of treatment than something like a possession or a not just a possession, what's it called when they just kind of haunt you but they don't possess you.
Oh, you're talking about not a residual haunting. You are talking about a...
Oh geez, I should have looked this up.
It would have been haunting.
Sometimes spirits, they try to get at one person though.
Yeah,
they attach themselves to one person.
It's going to bother me now. It's not residual haunting. It's not poltergeist. It's not...
Let me look it up.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Let's see.
It's not possession.
I'm just going to say demons going after one person. Let's see.
I know.
Well, there's one of them that was like dealing with the legal rights of oppression.
Oppression. There we go. Yep. And there's like stages of a possession of oppression would be one of the first ones because they claim you. Yeah. And then when you let them in and they break, like the stages of possession is like intense. And as it gains control, you eventually succumb to them, and that's when they can fully take over. Mm-hmm. And there's like, I think there's like 7 or 8 steps where they're like, okay, but it's spooky. I'm like,
it's a little creepy, yeah. And I imagine, well, I mean, the numbers are just not out there because I did look at it. I'm not imagining anything. The numbers are not really out there, but we don't really know because who's releasing the numbers?
Yes, exactly.
So. But this particular story, and I mean, it really piqued people's interest And like I said earlier, it was just during that era where the horror movies were coming out, the Amityville Horror. I mean, all of that stuff.
That's another good one.
Later. Yeah. And then you have the Annabelle dolls.
Yeah, the Warrens were getting right in their start in the 70s, and that's when really that parapsychology was starting to get way and investigate. Well, the Warrens started investigating it.
And it started, I mean, when you go down that rabbit hole, it's really creepy.
Yeah, and the media, like, picking up on it. Like, yeah, you're like...
Exactly. And you just don't see it very much anymore. I mean, you do sort of within certain arenas, but you don't see, like general media talking about it. No. You don't see, it's kind of this side thing, but it's sort of interesting what's happened with it now.
For sure. Yeah, and it seems like it's more just everyday life. Like you have the ghost shows now, and you have like the Ghost Adventures, and you have all those reality shows, and
so
everyone's
almost entertainment.
Yeah. Versus back then when a show would come out and it was based on something even remotely real. Yeah. They would take it completely dark. And people were, I mean, in The Exorcist, in the first one that came out in the 1970s, women were fainting when they came out, and they would come out throwing up, like you said. They had bark bags, and
I mean, they were handing them out in the theater.
Man, imagine working at that theater. That would be horrible.
That would smell so bad.
You'd be like, we're not cleaning anything until it's all done.
Oh
The smell a lot. People would be like, it's all about the ambience.
Exactly.
Well, make it as real as possible. Spewing out on them.
Projectile, Can you imagine it in 3D?
Oh, I know. You know, eventually they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, someone's with the spray bottle.
Exactly. Bring your Febreze, people. Bring your Febreze.
What's this do?
Exactly.
Disgusting.
Oh man. So. But it's actually fascinating to me that they're remaking it.
They are.
It's like,
and I guess it's a sequel to the 1970s one.
Okay.
And so it takes place, but I haven't watched the trailer yet.
Yeah.
Neither of you.
No. So we're gonna wrap this up, and then we're gonna actually have another video where we watched the one trailer and then the other trailer. Yeah. Because we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them at all. And like I said, I've never seen the first one. I've seen clips of it.
Watch it.
But it's like a cult classic. Yeah, I remember it shot Linda Blair to oblivion for stardom. She was just amazing.
They ran her through the ringer, though. I think she broke her back, or had a hairline fracture with the back when they did the whip. Yeah. And then they overworked her, and then it was like really, really intense.
Yeah, there weren't as many laws protecting actors at that time. It was full immersion.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna get that scene. What are you gonna do? Just wait and watch.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a couple ropes. We're just gonna yank it around a little bit.
You feel like you're gonna die?
Yeah, it's good.
Don't worry, it's a good shot.
Exactly. Got it. It's like, oh my gosh.
Is she breathing?
Yeah, exactly. They probably have the paramedics on hand.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine.
Jeez. But this is like a super fascinating story because you just don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, you have no idea.
And
I don't want to experience that to know if it's true.
No, I don't either.
I don't want...
But then apparently after the exorcism, this guy went on.
Oh yeah, he became a NASA engineer.
Yeah.
And he helped produce, I think he passed away a couple of years ago, but he ended up helping to like make different spaceships into
space shuttles and the different electronic equipment.
Yeah, exactly. Like he became extremely successful, and he didn't want anyone to know. So that's why his name's Roland Doe. Yeah. Because he didn't want his identity to be out there because he didn't want that to hinder what he was doing.
Which it could follow you around.
Yeah, especially if he was the prankster and he was like, I made all that up. Yeah. Imagine like being like, okay, you know what? That's just the past. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about.
Imagination.
Yeah. And then they have a movie and all that, and you're like, oh, if they knew the truth,
Yeah.
that would be horrible. He's like, I'm stuck with that secret or that lie forever.
Exactly. And I was just a kid.
Yeah, you can't outrun that one.
Man, no, you can't outrun something like that. So the fact that he remained anonymous was probably a pretty wise decision. Yeah. And the fact that his family allowed him to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they didn't cash in because, like, with some of the other stories we'll go through, there was a lot of
there's people selling their families out for the quick cash.
Exactly.
And it's like,
and they could have, because they could have took rights on the book, on the movie, all of that, and been like, this is based on us.
Yeah.
And but it sounds like they didn't do that. They didn't take any royalties, and if they did, it was very under the table. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find anything like that as far as the rights being sold and that type of thing. So they must have just, with an author of a fictional book, I mean, they are allowed to read a news story and then recreate, take creative license and write their own book. They don't have to ask anybody for permission. And
everything was changed.
And
name,
they changed
gender,
everything.
And then situation. So he had every right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're
it's
sitting
still
there
somebody
going,
else's story.
You're going, ooh man, that's spooky.
Yeah.
And then I imagine his research was intense.
Yeah.
As a writer, the research he would have to do to
because back then no internet.
Oh, he would have to do the interview. So he probably had a whole new insight.
Yeah, so he probably had to go through the newspaper archives, talk to the priest,
the staff,
neighbors.
That would be years of research.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Man.
Unless he just had a really amazing imagination.
You read the article and he's like, oh, this is an outline.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect outline. Yeah.
We got it. Yeah, and the writer, what was his name? Give me a second so we can give him credit.
Because it was a bestseller.
Yeah, it was huge. William Blanty.
Yeah.
And he ended up writing the script for the original Exorcism.
Really?
Yeah,
that's unusual.
Yeah, so he wrote the book.
Yeah.
And then the filmmaker came and wanted to make it into a film, and he wrote the script.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was a part of the whole process.
The whole thing. Yeah, because I mean, if you don't know, you probably know this, but authors usually do not write the scripts for the movies that are optioned. That they,
sometimes you don't want the writer to write the script.
No,
because there's too much of an attachment.
Yeah, they're too. You have to
kill your darlings.
Yeah, exactly. They're different media.
Don't make them. Yeah, don't bring it back to life. No,
exactly.
I'm writing.
Exactly. Better just keep it separate. So, well, that's interesting that he wrote both.
Yeah, he wrote both.
Huh. Okay. So. Yeah, so we're going to, I think we're going to wrap it up for now.
And we're going to watch
the trailers, and that will be we're going to do one trailer video, and then we'll do the other trailer, a second video, so that, we're separating them out a little bit. We've never seen them before, which you'll see when you watch the videos.
And the release date for that is October 6th.
Yeah.
So if you... I don't think I can handle it in theater. I'm like, if I'm gonna watch something spooky, it's daylight, and I can see the light shining in, and I can pause it when it gets too scary.
I had to watch Army of the Dead. I don't know if you've seen Army of the Dead. I had to watch that. It was intense. I watched it in 5 sittings in daylight.
Yeah,
so it was like an hour here. It's a really long, or half an hour here or whatever, but I kept pausing it, going to do laundry.
Oh yeah, could you ask
it was intense. Yeah.
I was when one of my first jobs, my second job was at work in the movie theater, and I worked my way up to a projectionist, and I would have to build the movies, and you'd have to watch the movies at nighttime to make sure everything was. And that was your job.
In the projection room.
In the movie theater. Oh. So we'd build it. And then it's like 12 o'clock at night, and you would go watch these movies because you had to make sure it was sliced and built correctly. Yeah. Because it was before the digital era.
Yeah, it wasn't digital.
And one of the movies that came through was the Exorcism of Emily Rose. And so I was 17 or 18, maybe 16, I don't know, around those ages. And I was like, I'm not watching this at a movie theater in the middle of the night with a group of teenagers. So I waited until like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I got my dad into the movie theater to watch it with me because I was like, I am not watching this movie at nighttime.
And that was the Scott Derrickson film, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was good. And then we watched The Ring. And we did, it
Oh,
was
I didn't see that one
PG-13.
either.
Oh, that's a great one. PG-13. We were like, it's not going to be that scary. And a group of
Famous
us,
last words.
a group of us, and again, we all worked in the movie theater, and so we watched this movie in the middle of the night. Like it did not end until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was petrifying.
Oh.
And we still had to shut the theater down, so you had to go upstairs, turn off, and it was a spooky
scary.
theater.
Yeah, that's when your mind just does this weird thing.
Horrible, and then you're coming home, and it's like, what's going to
Yeah,
eat
you're
me?
looking for the white
Don't
lady.
watch any movies.
Exactly.
VHSs, we're like, don't touch them.
No, exactly.
It was horrible.
Oh my gosh.
So so daylight.
Yeah, daylight. And remember that if you get a little creeped out, watch it in daylight, and you'll be fine.
With the pause button.
With the pause button. So
thank you.
Yeah, so we're happy you joined us.
Yep.
And make sure you look for those other 2 videos, and then we're gonna come back next week with another longer video.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we're gonna do these types of videos where we're talking about things, all things paranormal and creepy. And then also we're gonna do reaction videos as well. So just remember to like and subscribe and comment, because we are gonna be looking at your comments, and I mean, I love to see what you
I do too. I love, and flattery always works.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.